mainly from the cyclocross and mountain biking era, because people who go across country, they want to get off and say in cyclocross and run. You don't want to have a thumping great block underneath your feet. And the same thing with the mountain bikers who may want to walk as well as climb. Hey, but a bit of attacks coming on. Looks like Escartin now starting to rip into Lance Armstrong. So the back group, the main peloton, has suddenly blown apart. And Escartin, of course, has got one of his teammates down the road. This man is irrepressible.
Definitely, he says Armstrong on his wheel straight away and Zule on Armstrong's wheel. But Behind has to react now behind. Can't let these guys go away.
I saw quite a few people napping.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, I think that's behind coming up behind him. I think I see the kind of the red polka dot jersey. But Escartin is having an incredible ride, Dave, isn't he? Yesterday and today.
Why would he do that though, Steve?
Well,
because he got his stage victory yesterday. We're climbing up this double little climb here, over the top and running down in towards the finish. I reckon it's 60 kilometres in towards the finish, and Escartin isn't a great roller on the flat, is he?
No,
well, it's in all flat.
But the thing is, Dave,
he's 10 kilometres, the rest 50's flat.
He's now second overall on GC, but with Zule knocking on his door, he knows it's going to be very difficult for him to hold on to second place after the time trial Futuroscope. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind getting rid of Zule if he could. On today's the last day that he can do it.
Well, he's certainly trying now on this climb of the Col de Soleure, which goes on then to the Col d'Aubisque. There's only 10 kilometres between the two peaks. You actually climb a little blip and you climb again. We may show you it on our screen shortly, the way in which the profile of the climb is, but it really is a tough day after what we had yesterday. That is Zuller 161, Belly is 141, Armstrong is up there in the yellow jersey, and we've got Escartin too. In fact, we've got all the ones, haven't we? That just shows you that they are the team leader. 141 for the Festina Watches team is Belly, and Zuller just up ahead of him for the Banesto team, wearing the number one on his back. And what they do after that is, once you've got your number one man, your team leader, they put the rest of the riders in alphabetical order behind the leading number. And so Alex Zuller wears 161, whilst the US Postal Service Armstrong is 181. Now we're looking at a reaction from the main pack. There was over 60 riders that come together after the climb, and it was Escartin that started it all. And now the teammate here for Richard Verong, in fact, he's now not pedalling too well, I thought, number 69, the polka dot jersey, tracking on the wheels of his teammate, trying to take them up there. And really, that's Goubert who's taking him up, but they missed a trick there.
Well, Bianca, I'm sure he'll be happy with himself, but at the same time he'll be saying that last night he was saying on television that he was disappointed with his team, that he had no teammates around him, so I'm sure he's happy to have one man around him there now. But it doesn't seem to be too comfortable there, Dave.
He doesn't, and behind him it looks like Ulo's chasing up for La France Interjoc, Camasso for the Psycho Candel team, the national champion of Italy. 1, 2, 3, 4 back from the front. 1 or 2 of the other riders there won't think do much, because you see the blue jersey of the US Postal team rider, looks like Livingston going up there. He won't do much either. And this is the attack then of Escartin, and you can see where we were, just coming up towards the Col de Soleure, up toward the top of that. Little blip at the top, goes down for just a couple of kilometres, then we start again over the Col d'Aubisque. So that's where it is, and that's where the attack comes from. The Col de Casablanca Eurosport rider. Yep.
Armstrong was, Dave. The very second that Escartin went, Armstrong was right out of his saddle, starting to go forward. Just goes to show you that Armstrong, even though he is comfortable with having teammates around him and everything else, he still is very alert, and he's still waiting for somebody to attack him.
Well, that was a good move by Escartin, and he's got Zuller with him, though, because we came into the race today. The time overall for the leading group of riders on the general classification, Armstrong at 6 minutes 19 seconds was Escartin. So Lance Armstrong still comfortable in the lead. Escartin chipped back a bit of time yesterday, but it didn't worry Lance too much, I don't think, when he got the stage victory, because Lance is a much better time trialist. There we are. They're now 30 seconds ahead of the group, which contains Veronk and Olano. Escartin started that little reaction to the breakaways up in front. He started this morning second spot, 6 minutes 19 seconds down. It looks like Reinero is about to be reeled in by chasing group of 8 men. The 8 riders on your screen coming up. Mayer leading through. What's the gosh he done?
Well, that guy was standing in the middle of the road, maybe, yeah.
That was ridiculous.
But, maybe he might have said something to him, you know.
Here we go. Here, watch again. Look. What?
It's very strange. probably verbally said something.
Must have done. He must have been insulting.
But very dangerous
move by Renero.
Yeah, because
he could have brought somebody down.
There's a car coming behind him, or a motorbike coming past him. But been very bad for himself, and also maybe for somebody else in the bunch as well. So very bad move by Renero.
40 seconds now back between the group containing Escartin, Armstrong, Zuller and Belli to the group containing Alano and Veronk. It's our leading group with the rider in the blue shorts there for Mappe Quick-Step is Tonkov, who's been very active all day long. In the pink and white, he's got with him Ellie from the Deutsche Telekom team, and the other rider in that breakaway group from the Onsay team is Echeverria. It looks like he's beginning to struggle for his work. He tried to close that gap down and hasn't made it. Now he can't hang on, Renero, to this 8-man group, which contains Vinocroft, just got him on his screen there, and the other riders, Bunahora, Contreras, Arrieta, Serrano, Garcia, Simon and Mayer. Mayer doing the work on the front.
Must be frustrating for Renero all the same day to see his teammate Mayer making the tempo on the front of the group and him getting blowing out the back at the same time.
Well, he's not been too fit through this race so far, has he?
He hasn't. No, you see, Francois Simon has gone off the back also.
This our chase pack. Before long, if they keep this pressure up, they can see that group of 8 in front of them. Belli doing just the right thing, sitting on the wheels. The battle is between Escartin and Zuller to try and split that second and third place. Escartin still in second spot, 6 minutes 19 seconds, and Alex Zuller 7 minutes and 26. So there's just over 1 minute and 7 seconds between Escartin and Zuller this morning. Escartin 1 minute 7. You're quite right, Stephen. He needs a bit more than 1 minute 7, doesn't he, going to time trial, Escartin to Zuller. So he's trying to crack him on these two climbs.
Yeah, the way he's going at the moment, the way Zuller looks anyway, at the moment, it looks like very difficult to get him off. But what will happen now one day when they get over the top here of the Solar, there's a kind of a small descent, not a very steep descent, but a small descent going on to the foot of the obelisk. So I wonder will they actually ride together, like Escartin, Armstrong and Zuller and Belli, will they ride together, or will they let Escartin do the work?
Well, Escartin, apart from getting away trying to do some damage to Zuller, Dufo, I haven't caught sight of Dufo. He must be back in that group behind Armstrong now. Now, Dufo this morning was 4th overall, 8 minutes 36 seconds. So what Escartin's doing here is I won't say making sure he's second or third spot, but if he can distance Dufo as well. Now, it's yesterday, Escartin came off the climbs like a dose of salt, didn't he? Now, Zuller's not a very good descender. Armstrong is. So I would suggest that probably they will keep this going and try and get down with a bit of a gap between them and people like Dufo by the time we come off the climbs, that long running. But it's nearly 50 kilometres of semi-flat, hardly much dropping roads, isn't it? So if Armstrong doesn't ride and Escartin tows Zuller, then at one point Zuller could nip off down the road, because Escartin on the flat surely can't keep a gap of 1.5 to 2 minutes going between him and the chasers.
No, I reckon that Escartin is not even a great descender, so it'll be interesting to see how Armstrong actually reacts, because Armstrong himself was an incredible descender. Belli the same again. So if Belli or Armstrong decide they want to make the descent really flat out, I reckon that Zuller and Escartin will be in difficulty going down, because neither of them are very good descenders.
But it's going to play in their hands, isn't it, to stay away from that back group, because Veronk is in there. This morning he was 9 minutes 46 seconds down on Armstrong, but if we look at his gap between himself and Zuller, there was 2 minutes 20 between Veronk and Zuller, so at least Zuller can gate Veronk further and further back, because this is the last day when Veronk can do anything in the mountains, and when we looked at him further on back down there, he seemed to have lost a lot of steam.
He has, yeah, but Veronk will come back a lot on the descent. You want to have, I reckon the group ahead of him have to have at least a minute ahead of him to maintain the gap between himself and between the group and behind, because Veronk's being a very good descender. He could come back up to the difference of a minute, I'd say.
Well, this is the remnants of our 8-man chasing group at the back there. That is Werner Croft, number 91 on your screen, the young rider. Still persisting with this little group. I think he's being sensible and just staying in there. And Simon's been dropped back, yes, and now he's been caught by the group. To show you how quickly the Escartin and Armstrong, Zuller and Belli are closing the gap to those 8 men in front. And Simon's having difficulty hanging on.
Well, the fact is that they're almost to the top of the summit now. He may lose a little going over the top, but he will get back on the descent. But the descent is not a very tricky descent. It's a kind of a false, flat descending, really. So you need to get back on with the legs. So I reckon that Armstrong's group is almost a minute up now on behind. And I reckon Armstrong behind could get back on the little descent here.
Well, we've seen all the ones, by the way, because each of these 4 riders now bears one on his back as team leader. And we just saw for a brief moment the leader of the Agricole team, Simon, with the one on his back there. 91 is the leader of the Casino team, Vinokov. We've got quite a number of ones. In fact, I think Tonkov also out in the lead has got legs 11. He's got one on his back as well. So a lot of the top men begin to bash each other on this stage of the Tour de France. And the last big day in the mountains, because from now on in, we go into flatlands with a couple of stages on the flat and then the time trial, and then that final run into Paris on the last Sunday, where we see this big crowd here. Well, this is where these people come out, the people on holiday to watch it, and I'm sure we're going to see a great big gang of people also in Paris. And providing the yellow jersey of Armstrong persists where he is right now, then we're going to assure Americans based in Europe coming to Paris to give him a big cheer on the way through.
Look at the people, Dave. The crowds here that come up here. Like these people here have come up here, must say, very, very early in the morning or very late last night to be able to get up here, because the roads are blocked both sides. An incredible amount of people here.
And if you are coming out to watch the Tour de France next year and do want to come up the day before or early in the morning, I do mean crack of dawn, because yesterday we were driving up to be in position for the commentary at the top of the mountain. We were going, must have been, about 7:30, 8 o'clock. There was still loads of people up there. The thing you have to bear in mind is you can't suddenly say, right, I'm going home at the top, and that's it. As they cross the top of the climb, this chase group behind our leading threesome, they've gone over the top then, and at the top of the climb then, it says here, the only victory of Irlandais, Stephen Roche, 1985, 1985. The computers, hey, look, Stephen. Sorry, you people back at home can't see it. We've got one thing which flicks it. A lonely arrival at the top of the Obelisk was Stephen Roche. Well,
that actually, I won that stage, and nicely enough, Sean Kelly was second, about a minute behind me or so.
Was he? Yes.
Sean was in the green jersey that year. I attacked Hino and Le Monde and gotten away from them. And Lucho Herrera, the great Colombian climber, had been in front, and I caught him and dropped him. I went on to win the stage. Sean was second, about a minute behind me, and I think Hino and Le Monde were just behind that again.
Well, Vinokurov and has just been distanced. Mayor's been distanced. It's been splitting. 3 minutes, the yellow jersey to Tonkov at the top of the climb. 3 minutes the gap then back to Armstrong, and the check now, be interested to see as Veronk comes up here getting more points at Kingdom Managed competition. He's certainly going to carry this jersey through to Paris. Nobody can touch him in this race, but the question is, will he be losing too much time on the overall classification for people like Escartin? And so, in fact, I've just checked, he's 1 minute 25 down on the group containing the yellow jersey. So that was very, he's lost a minute and a half on the climb.
Yeah. Well, behind Stuart tonight will be, I had no teammates behind me, but I mean to say, riding on the hills there, you can see he's having great difficulty.
Dropping down off the top of the climb of the Sulop. And we've only got some 10 kilometres to go before we hit the top of the next climb, the one of the LB. So it's down a bit and up another climb through the murk. This group here with the yellow jersey, they've been picking up one or two of the riders who are in that original 8-man group that chased after our leaders who took off on the Col d'Aspin. At Col d'Aspin, Piccoli got that climb. Veronk was in second spot, and Areta into third, and McEwen into fourth. They went down the Col d'Aspin, and coming up towards the Col de Tourmalet, off went Eli Tonkov and Exhibitor. They went over in that order after 65 kilometres of racing, and now the riders are over the top of the Col de Sula, short little drop on a very narrow, tricky road. This is not ideal chase conditions for someone like Veronk, who's 1.5 minutes down on the yellow jersey at this particular point.
Well, I was saying the descent here is not tricky enough, really, or fast enough for riders to get back on. So I reckon 30 to 40 seconds, yes, a guy like Veronk who descends very fast might get back on again, but 40 seconds to a minute I think would be too difficult, because it goes down for about 4 or 5 kilometres, so we're starting to get false flat, as I was saying earlier on. So there's no real big descent, and then it starts going up again for the Col de l'Obisque, which is a very small road, similar to this. It's the same road actually as this, but it'll be no wider than this, but it goes up.
Well, it sounds like Serrano, Garcia, Vinokurov have all been caught by the group containing Armstrong. They've now caught them back. So Simon, now 13 riders in the Lance Armstrong group. So we've now got these 3 riders on your screen, and this is the group with 13 riders, unlucky for some, and Simon's got back there. He was in trouble on the climb, but he's managed to get back in this group. The time check we had between this group and the group containing Vironk was 1 minute 35. So there we are, that's the chase group, and 2:57. There's a little bit of a group left then from the original 8-man wedged in no man's land.
Oh no, sorry.
Go on. You changed your mind.
Very stupid, Dave.
Oh, well.
I was looking at Tonkov's bum there, you know. I saw a bit of red. I thought it might have come off. But from one screen to the other here, there's one colour is more redder than the other.
Yes.
I thought actually his shorts was torn, and maybe it'd come off. Maybe. Actually, the fact I looked at my other screen here is actually the colours of the Mapei shorts.
Yeah, it's like somebody when you've got a motor car, if you paint it black one side and red the other, and they said, I saw a car involved in an accident, it was black. You say, it wasn't mine because it's red, you see, so they don't know what. So the Mapei jersey, rather interesting. The left-hand side, as we look now, has got all these little cubes of colour on it, and on the right-hand side, there's nothing. I don't quite know how they arrived at this particular system of colouring their shorts and their jersey, but you see the left-hand side is full of these little cubes of colour. The right-hand side is pretty much white.
You're having the Formula 1 car, the BAR Formula 1 car of Jacques Villeneuve, having got 555 on one side and then something else on the
Lucky
other side.
Lucky strike, the other one. They were brought over by the tobacco company, wanted to run one car in one colour and one car in the other because they've got 2 cars, and the governing body said, no, you can't do that. So they've actually painted the cars half and half, so they've got this publicity for the 2 tobacco companies. Well, there we are.
Scotland's got Bonera here now, Dave.
Yes, this is going to be a real humdinger because Bonera and Escartin are desperately now trying to put Mr. Vironk under all sorts of trouble. All sorts of trouble. Stephen.
Yes.
20 years Kelme have been sponsoring cycle racing. We've seen some very good exploits from over the years. They've always been out there firing one man off and here and there. We saw them the other day chasing on the front with about 4 or 5 like we've never seen before. And look at this, Escartin being led down by his teammate. Normally they're in the wheels, aren't they? This Kelme team has become a revelation in this race.
Well, they have, yes, but this is their territory as well. If we were to wait for them to get down onto the flat after the foot of the Obisque and right on the flat, I can tell you they would not be going on that fast. So I reckon that it is okay now because it's not actually going downhill. It's a kind of a false flat. So they're in their element now at the moment, and it will be also in the next few minutes when they start climbing the col of the Obisque. But I reckon once you get to the top of the col of the Obisque, I reckon someone else will take over on the descent because nobody really likes being behind the Spanish riders, especially some of the Kelme riders on descending because they're maybe good about going up, but they ain't no good going down, Dave.
And I observed while you were chatting then, Stephen, that as they came around that bend, they went across a cattle grid. There was some metal struts across the road that stopped the cattle going up, or the sheep, going up any further. And the riders suddenly saw it, and they tried to straighten the bikes up because there's nothing worse than going across something metal with a very thin tire, a bit of damp on. And although it isn't raining, the road isn't that dry because there's sort of haze hanging about, and you could suddenly see the panic in 1 or 2 of the riders back behind these 2 or 3 at the front. So whoops, so they try to straighten the bikes and then come back down again. Very dangerous, those cattle grids.
Well, that's what I was saying earlier on, Dave, about anticipating, like cornering when descending and so on is all about anticipating, looking at the contours, looking at trying to anticipate which way the corner is going to go. And also you must always leave a little bit of margin there just in case there is something like a cattle grid in the way. But more importantly, or more often we see on corners will be a wet patch or a slippy patch or gravel or sand, for example. So you always have to anticipate where you're going, but also leave a margin there just in case you have to straighten up to if there's something else on the road.
The other thing which we're watching here, Stephen, and I've always admired it because I've been in team cars at the back, is the way in which the cars and the cyclists and the motorcycle all mix on descents like this, and everybody has to know what they're going to do because these descents are very treacherous, and at high speed like this the riders really have problems with the vehicles. This looks to me, Stephen, if we've now come off the climb of the col of the Solo and just begun to go up the Obisque, could that be it?
It is, yeah. You can see the small chain rings there now are now in full flight. I just got heard over my radio there that the chasing group of Armstrong and Zule Escartin are now only 2 minutes 30 seconds back on this group. So Escartin and his teammate Bono O'Hara have done an incredible work over the top of the Col de Solar, because it was almost 4.5 minutes going up before about halfway up the Col de Solar until Escartin attacked. But Bunahera is doing an incredible job here for his teammate Escartin, lying here in second place.
Well, last count we had, there were 13 men in this group here. Keep your fingers crossed it's not an unlucky number as they go down the descent, with Bunahera driving hard on the front. Escartin not rocking quite as much when he's climbing, but still riding with his unusual style. He gets his elbows out, his knees out, and he's not got the stylish riding that we expect from most of the pro bike riders, but by goodness he's efficient, and he was very efficient yesterday.
Well, yesterday he won the Curtly Young Competitivity Award, Dave, and this morning when I met him on the podium to give him his trophy, when I shook his hand, his bones all rattled. He was I've known him a while, but I mean to say I haven't been as close to him for a while, and I saw this morning there when I was giving him his prize. I was talking to him for a few minutes, and I'm going to hit him on the back just to say well done, and I could feel his bones, his shoulder blades coming through his jersey. Then when I shook his hand, then I felt like it was kind of rattling on me, you know. But nevertheless, he was delighted with his stage yesterday, saying it was the best day of his life.
And he certainly showed on his face when he came across the line, but he's got the typical build of mountain climber, practically no fat on his bones, a big chest, he's sucking lots of oxygen, and he just delights when the road's going up. I'm very interested this year in the Tour of Spain, Steve. I don't know if you caught up with it, but there's one climb which Escartin went up in maybe March or April this year, one of the national magazines, I forget which one it was now, in Great Britain, whether it's Pro Cycling or whether it was the Cycle Sport, but they actually went on to this climb, and they went up with Escartin. He had to stop at one point and get his breath back and go right. Now, it wasn't at the height of the season for him, but he was certainly talking about going on some gears, almost like granny rings, because his front wheel was almost lifting off the ground. They found a climb this year, which is just something which they've never, ever been over before on a big tour. Yeah,
I was reading about it myself, and this is one of the reasons why Pantani was probably saying there's no point in riding the Tour because it's not hard enough for me, but Tour of Spain is a really good race for me. But one reason is because it's near the World Championships, so it's great preparation for the World Championships. But another reason is the fact that I feel like I can win it, he was saying, because there's one or two stages in it where there's incredible hills on it, where if I'm going well I can put time into my opponents. And this particular hill you're talking about, Dave, he reckoned that he could put 3 minutes on a good day, he could put 3 minutes into his next rival.
Well, this just shows you we've gone over the top of the Col de Solar, and that's the move up toward the Col d'Aubisque, and they're going through the murky conditions. It's the chase group on your screen going after our 3 leaders. They've got to catch them up or close the gap coming up to the top of the Col d'Aubisque, because at one time, there goes Simon is beginning to drift off, and it looks as if they're really having some deal with the 13 men in this chase group. When they get to the top, they may be able to. Simon got back over the Col de Solar, and it's near enough, I think, toward the top, perhaps to get back on the drive down the Col d'Aubisque in toward the finish. And we're waiting for information to see how far back the group containing Alano, containing also Dufo, containing Veronk is behind this group, and a tremendous sterling job being done by Bunahera in the front, and I think now he's beginning to suffer for his work as Escartin begins to take over.
Well, he has done a great job, but there's about 4K now to the top of the Aubisque. But you can see that the pressure going on again here now with Francois Simon is once again, and Renero, both of them now getting dropped because of the pressure being put on here now by Escartin. And of course Armstrong was straight onto the wheel of Escartin in the hope that there's no gaps open up, because at the same time Armstrong is isolated here, which could be a little bit dangerous for him, because when we on the hill, when he has his teammates around him, they can make a tempo and climb back and everything else. But when Armstrong gets off this climb now down onto the bottom after the Aubisque, there's still 40 odd kilometers of flat rolly roads to go to the finish. So if Zule goes, for example, for a flyer, Armstrong must react. Then if Escartin goes, he must react again. So he has to react every time. So it'd be interesting to see now how the group actually reacts now to the fact of having Armstrong in the group and him being isolated.
Well, that group was 13 strong. It's now down to 11 as Simon has just been dropped off that group. And in fact, more are going off the back now. They really are beginning to struggle.
Meyer, Dave.
Yes, Meyer's. Well,
see Meyer's elbow there with the patch on it after his fall yesterday. His knee has also been bandaged up, I saw this morning.
And Arrieta, he's been dropped off. Simon's been dropped off. We've now got Meyer dropping off. And Vunacroft looks like he's going to struggle too. And still the Kelme Costa Blanca Eurosport boys on the front.
What a ride.
Escartin is taken over there. Yes, yeah.
Even Bonahara, Dave, is having difficulty staying with the group.
In fact, I think that's Contreras. It's Contreras, not Bonahara. Sorry.
Came up here a few minutes ago, Bonahara. So.
Yes, it's Contreras. I'm just checking the details here off our computer. It's Contreras that's just been dropped off the back, actually.
It is Contreras. I came across my radio a minute ago.
So the group containing Armstrong now, you can see it's thinning down all the way, 2 minutes and 17 seconds as Escartin takes over from his teammate Contreras. Armstrong is still there together with Zuller, thinning down as they're now just over 2 minutes back on Tonkov, Eli and Echeverria. Escartin, after getting yesterday's stage victory, romping up toward the top of this climb. I say romping up, he's caused enormous devastation. He and his teammate, they were still there, Contreras, 113. It was 13 men in the group. It's now whittled down to those you see on your screen. Just 6 men surviving, and I rather feel that somehow Garcia Vitilis Seguros is going to pop his cork any moment, the chap in the red and white. And these are the riders that have set the whole pace. Eli in the pink and the white, together with the Mapei colours, number 31. Tonkov, and Echeverria, the winner of the stage in Toussaint Fleur for Onse Deutsche Bank, just there tracking on into third spot. The gap is coming down and down all the time. Eli, Tonkov and Echeverria went over the Col de Tourmalet after 65 kilometres in that order. Over the top of the Col de Souleur with some 121 kilometres covered, Tonkov, Eli and Echeverria were in that order. Coming up toward the top of the Col d'Aubisque, they'll be off the top here, just 61 kilometres to go to the finish of the stage. They've been out there somewhere in excess of 70, maybe 80 kilometres, those leading threesome, and now the train back in flight again as the Kelme boys start to make life difficult for the group behind. Well, he's got back. I wish to apologise, Mr. Garcia. I thought he popped his cork and gone back again, but he's still there. Belly doing a good job here. He started, I don't know if you know, Stephen, but when they had that crash, he bruised his ribs and he spent days, he could hardly breathe, and he struggled to stay in the race. And now getting the mountains, he's got rid of his bruising, he's coming good. Winner of the English, the milk race in England some years ago, and also the third in the Kellogg's Pro Tour. And I think he was riding some time ago when Guarini, I think it was, also were riding in the RAS when they came up against the McQuaid Mafia.
McQuaid was Spratt as well, wasn't it?
And Spratt was leading, yes. And evidently in the circuit in Dunleary, they got their own back.
Well,
no, we won't go into that.
There's a lot of controversy about it as well, so better off forgot the prep, but it wasn't really an example of how to defend the jersey or how to get a jersey in a last day of a stage race.
It was an intriguing race, shall we say?
Intriguing race.
Right, OK. Well, back to the race on your screen now. Cut and thrust from the leading threesome. Eli on the front, second spot Tonkov, and third Echeverria.
There's the fog now. We often have fog on top of the Aubisque, and here once again we have it, which is going to make it a little bit dangerous on the descent, because the first couple of corners on the descent are fairly tight and switchbacky, so it's going to be relatively dangerous. And then as we get down the descent and the road widens out, and becomes very fast.
Well, there they go, with still Eli doing the good work here.
It's the last call now of the Tour de France 1999.
Last big one. Yeah, we're down. I think we've got 2 fourth category climbs tomorrow and 1 fourth category the day after, and that's it. So this is the last big climb, the first category climb of the Col d'Aubisque, and Eli goes over the top in first spot, then Tonkov, and then Echeverria.
In actual fact, Dave, the Col d'Aubisque was my first stage win in the Tour, and it was also, ironically enough, the last call I ever went over, and that was in the Tour de France in 1993.
Ah, so you have certain warm feelings to it, yes.
Nostalgia.
What's it like breathing on this damp air? Is it good, bad, indifferent for the riders?
No, the most important thing is that they don't get too cold going down the chest, but the air doesn't really make any effect on them, because they're used to worse conditions than that. I think cyclists have to be kind of able to take in the heat, the cold, the rain, the sweat, everything really. So there's no effect on them really. Probably better for someone like Armstrong, because someone that does actually go better in colder weather than warm weather, although I know Lance does actually go good in both weathers. But someone who goes better in cold weather, this will suit them because it gives them a bit of a kind of a recuperation day between the very warm days we've had the last couple of days.
Well, the clock running to see what the gap is back as the riders just having a bit difficult hanging on here. Garcia and Belly, but they'll be okay when they get to the top. Look at this massive crowd. Tremendous, isn't it?
A photograph of the stage that I won here, Dave, and it was like putting me up in the middle of a gallery. It was so many people there, and it's on the banking. People do this every year. Every time the Tour de France is up here, you get hundreds of thousands of people up here on top of the Obisque.
And you see the bikes on the side. If you do come out, I've said before, try and leave your vehicle down at the bottom of the climb. Spend maybe all day walking or riding your bike up, because there's no way you can get vehicles down until the tour has gone through. And particularly like we had yesterday, when you finish the top of a mountain, all official cars are allowed to go down first of all. So we know that about 1 minute 23 seconds is the gap back between our three leaders in the group containing Armstrong. And the interesting question will be,
well, I reckon, Dave, it goes 150 now as the group back from yellow jersey back to this group, as far as I can hear coming across.
That's more than that. I've got 206 going.
Yeah.
That was Vinokurov that's just gone across.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
because in this group here, I think you have Zula, you have Defoe, you have Virenka, you possibly also have Orlano. So if Orlano has a few teammates here, Defoe, yeah. If they have one or two teammates in this group, when they get over the top, I reckon they will ride like eyeballs out to actually try and catch this group here, or close down the gap as much as they can before the finishing post. So it's going to be very exciting and very interesting to see who rides in this front group to maintain the gap, and then who rides behind, and will they actually catch them before pole.
My watch showing 2:42 on, here we come, through the murk, and they were 2:47 on his screen. Renero going over. He tried to get up to the leading threesome, blew a gasket, and now we've got the chase group will reform, I think, on the way down. And we have here the group which contains Virenque. Virenque's got enough points in the King of the Mountains competition anyway, not to bother about having lost a few points here, but I think it'd be more loss of face as far as he's concerned. Alano is there. I can see Alano, that little white camera. I'm sure that's him just behind the Camasso here for the Psycho Cannondale team. Psycho Cannondale have got their man Dufo in this group, so Camasso's got to ride to try and make sure that Dufo can stay there in fourth spot with Virenque, but the gap's opening up, being Escartin and Zulla going further and further away, and a chance on the podium for Dufo is probably disappearing right before our very eyes. Live on Eurosport this afternoon, if you're watching this with Stephen Roche, myself, David Duffield, you're watching possibly Dufo drop so far back that he cannot climb up onto the podium in Paris, and it may go to Armstrong, Escartin and Zulla, but you never know in the time trial. As Virenque, he's okay in the polka dots jersey. He, in overall classification, was lying fifth this morning, 9:46, but it's 3 minutes and 55 seconds going on my watch. It's going to be 4 minutes at least with this chasing group coming over. And there you can see it on your screen too as well. And it is...
That'll be about 3 minutes back from yellow jersey, Dave, no?
Yeah, I'm just going to...
back from yellow jersey.
They're not over yet. There. And Virenque takes a few more points to King.
Give us a break. Give us a break. Give us a break.
If, dear viewer, you can see Stephen Roche beside me here, he just could not believe that. Virenque's got enough points in the bag to win 2 polka dot jerseys. He's about double the many of anybody else, and he's started to go for that, eh? And he's got a chase yet, hasn't he?
Then he asked everybody, why don't people like me?
Rocketing off the top of the last climb of the day, the last first category climb in the Tour de France. Our leading group have now gone down the mountain, not totally off the top of the Col d'Aubisque, but when they get down into the level part, the chase group here coming after them, they've just gone off the top there, and on the way down then, they're going through the towns of Aubon, Vallon, and then into the sprint at Louvet-Jusson with 31 kilometres to go. So a good drop off the top of this climb. They're going to come down. They've actually climbed, if you add the Col de Sulla to Col d'Aubisque, they've been climbing for some 27 kilometres. They've virtually now got another 25 kilometres downhill before they flatten off and run in toward the finish at Pau. The last, 10, 12 kilometres are pretty flat, and that will, I think, mean that they've got to start relaying each other to make sure that 4 minutes and 15 seconds gap between the leading threesome and the polka dot jersey, a group that contains Dufo and Alano, is still kept at that. There's going to be a heck of a chase chase off the bottom of this climb today, Stephen, eh?
Well, everybody's going to be chasing everybody, I think, Dave. There's,
are you glad you're commentating?
Tonkov's group will be in the front, and you'll have then the group of yellow jersey, I reckon, chasing as well. Chasing, well, not only chasing Tonkov, but trying to keep away from the group of Vihank. Then you'll have Vihank's group then, who is now 3 minutes, 2 seconds down on Armstrong, trying to get back to make contact with Armstrong's group. But 3 minutes, I think, it's not an impossible gap to close, because there is 60 odd kilometers or 55 kilometers or so from the foot of the obelisk, and the main thing I think is, which will help the rank, that in this front group Armstrong hasn't got the ride flat out, Zule hasn't got the ride flat out, so you really only have the Kelmy boys actually riding, and they won't be riding all that hard either, because they could say, well, what happened to Zule counterattacks in the finish, and Escartin cannot go with him.
But wouldn't it pay Zula to help this, because he's just 1 minute and 10 seconds ahead of Dufo in time trial. He's a better time trial, but a bit of cushion, extra minutes or a couple of minutes would be sure he's got his third spot in the...
it would, but for Zula to work, I reckon Armstrong will have to work as well, and basically the belly, everyone in the group will have to ride through, but I cannot see them riding through with a big enough commitment to catch the group in front or to stay away from the group behind. We'll have to wait and see when we get on the flat as to how they actually ride, to actually understand what they might have as tactics in their heads.
Well, Belly this morning was in 9th spot, 15 minutes, 16 seconds down on Armstrong. That's him at the back. He's not a very good descender, by the way, Belly. He was all over the place the other day, and he proceeded to go into the green grass on the edge, and I think must have frightened himself to death because of the drop about 200 or 300 feet the other side of him. He's on the tail end here. Let's hope he gets down safe and sound. Look, he's leaving quite a big gap here, and he's not the best when it comes to descending, but he's in 9th spot overall on the general classification, 15 minutes and 16 seconds down, but there's still about a 3-minute gap between him and Alano, and at the moment he's going now, the way Alano back in that chase group, he might still just move up 1 spot, so it's up to him to drive the break. Because they come through the 135 kilometres point of the race down to a place called Gouret. There are 57 kilometres left on the run in towards the finish, and there's a fantastic chase going on, and this chap here in the green shorts isn't going to aid and abet Mr. Virenque, because he's got his team leader Escartin up in the chase group after this breakaway threesome here with Tonkov there in the pink and white Ellie, and in the black pants and the black and yellow colour is Echeverria. And I think these two, Stephen, are going to give it everything they've got all the way through. I can't see any reason they're going to stop clattering down here, and Tonkov really must today try and go for a stage victory to give Mappe something in the mountains, with their rider Tom Steele's getting a couple of stages and disqualified in the third one. They haven't got out of Tonkov what they expected by placing the podium at the end of the Tour de France, but he's come back good after yesterday's devastating stage, and he could well be in the shout for today's stage victory. But they've got to ride hard off the bottom of this climb, when you bear in mind that they took off on the climb up towards the Col de Tourmalet. They took off with about some 50 kilometres of racing, and if they last all the way through to the finish, they'll have done about 140 kilometres at the front of the pack, and most of those kilometres have been climbing up the mountains, the Tourmalet, the Souleur and the Obisque.
The yellow jersey now is 110 behind this group here.
They are closing the gap, aren't they?
They are closing. Okay, I wonder who's leading them down, Dave. Is it still the Kelmy riders on the front? I wouldn't have thought so, but because normally the Kelmy riders are not great descenders, or if I was lying there in the yellow jersey, I wouldn't be too content riding behind the two Kelmy riders, because normally they would not be great descenders, but because of the descent being...
He's still on the front.
Yeah, and you see that, yeah.
And Carrera.
But normally you'd always stay a little bit behind these riders, because they can very easily have a straight on a corner.
Well, it's Contreras who seems to be doing the work, and no, Robert Miller, in his article in one of the cycling magazines, Cycling Plus, some time ago, Cycle Sport, he said, never follow a Colombian down the mountain. Well, they're having to do that now, aren't they? And he's catching the gap back. Come back, yeah. Robert Miller, all is forgiven. You
see there, he's actually moving away. Escartin is not the great descender, and like it's very rarely you get a good Colombian or Spanish descender that's a climber. Okay, climber, although he got over the climbs. But Delgado was a reasonably good descender, but he would have been more of a climber than Indurain would have been. but I would not have been the best descender of the peloton either.
So we've got a mixed bag of riders in this chasing group now, because I see also that Vinokurov, the Kazakhstan rider, has got himself back into the group. We've got Italians here, we've got Spanish riders, we've got Colombians, we've got American riders, we've got a Swiss rider, we've got a right mixture. In fact, Robert Miller said that learn to swear in different languages. Other riders will appreciate your efforts to communicate. They'll also know who you're talking to. Thanks, Robert, for this. Oh dear, what a wry sense of humour. Well, Robert Miller, great mountain climber, winner of the polka dot jersey in the Tour de France, winner of stages in the Pyrenees. He used to love the Pyrenees more than the Alps did, Robert. And if you're watching our programme on Eurosport, good to see you still being involved in the sport through journalistic ways, and nice to bump into you from time to time. Hope the motorbike's going okay.
Well, Robert himself was never a great descender. He was a great climber, okay, but he often lost his grip with the road on the descents. I remember one time in particular going down off a climb in Paris-Nice. Myself and Hina were fighting there for the lead, and we dropped Bob on the descent, and unfortunately there was some kind of a marine port strike at the bottom of the climb, and they stopped the whole race, and Robert got back on again. But it's common that marathon climbers are more pure specialist marathon climbers are not great descenders, probably because they're always very light as well, so they have difficulty in throwing the bike around into the corners on the tricky descents.
But you'd think with their centre of gravity being so much lower, I mean, tall chaps, a bit like myself, we're right up in the sky, and when you start to crank it round a bit, your centre of gravity isn't quite the same. But I actually used to be a bit of a demon descender. I had to do it. The only way to get back again was to do things like that, but I don't know what the difference is.
Maybe a little bit more weight, David. You have a little bit more grip on the road. Yes. Because when you're so light, for example, that the tire just goes zip on the corners, maybe this is my own interpretation of it. Don't take this as being gospel, but I think maybe that when you're a little bit heavier, for example, going into the corners, you're actually crushing the tire, which is giving you more grip.
Well, Robert Miller, winner of the Kingdom Andes competition in the Tour de France 1984 for Great Britain, the Scotsman taking that polka dot jersey. Robert also won stages of the Tour de France 1983 into Luchon, 1984 Guzeneja, 1989 into Suba-Banyares.
And all those stages that Bob won, they're all fabulous stages, if I remember as well. Bob never won an easy stage in the Tour. They were always like after epic rides.
Did you ever, when these little mountain goats go away, have a quiet swear under your voice, on your breath there, Stephen, eh?
More than once, Dave, more than once.
Right, well, we're still, this tracking group we're following here on the way down is the group containing Lance Armstrong. They're 1 minute 16 seconds back on Veronk's group, heading in towards the finish in Po. 4:19 back to Veronk's group. This could really make things a lot more different when we come to time trial stage. But people like Escartin, who, as I think today, this is fantastic work from the Kelme team. And tomorrow, Stephen, if you can do it, because I've got it. Well, no, we've got an easy day tomorrow. I can probably get to start. I'd love to get a few words off Alvaro Pino, because he's, I think, masterminded this team over these years, and this Tour de France this year, he seems to have done a very good job in getting his men in the right place at the right time.
Well, he has, but he also has Escartin really in kind of fine, mature condition as well, because the last few years he's always been up there. He's had a few podium places in Tour of Spain, but never won a major race. So see him in here today, now going to be in, not only today, but the last few days especially, and going on for a podium place in Paris. It's absolutely incredible. And also the team he has around him, every day they're going up the road. That's a fabulous sign of team and sportsmanship at a winning team.
Well, the question is going to be, will this group catch the leaders? Now, predicting here that Axula is going to have 11% of the votes for today's victory, Skartin 9%, Echeverria 7%. That doesn't take into account that Tonkov et al. Might not be caught. So it's fascinating the way that the voting is coming, because going down the other side, those three men are still well entrenched at the front, and the gap has come down to 1:16. So they've got Zula down there, Echeverria, Skartin. Well, they're not good sprinters when we come into play. If they catch up with that lead group, then my money would go on somebody who, let's say that Vinokurov gets across and catches them on the hop, because I think we need probably the leading three to be caught by Armstrong's group to give us something like about a dozen men at the front. Otherwise, it might all fall apart at the seams, eh?
Well, if it does come together, there'll be once again a group of 14 and 15 riders, and that'll, of course, be too big, in my opinion, to go to the finish. So you'll have riders like the likes of Francois Simon, the likes of Garcia, the likes of Vinokurov, having a go in the final 20k.
So going to be a fascinating run down into the finish at Po. We've now covered something like about 140 kilometres. Now, this is the group being led by the Calme boys, and a tremendous performance today by this young fellow Contreras for the Calme Costa Blanca team, and he's been driving this one along with Escartin. And you have 20 minutes left if you want to decide who is going to be the victor today in the stage of the Tour de France going into the finish in Pau. This is the stage where we've had the last of the big mountains, stage 16, Lan Maison to Pau, 192 kilometres. Cast your vote for the winner today by phoning 0906 614 0024. I'll give you that again then. You can also wang it down the old email if you want on the web. You saw it up there, www.eurosport.com. On the UK phone, 0906 614 0024, and the voting closes 4:30 French time, 3:30 back in the UK. You've only got maybe 20 minutes to cast your vote. Don't leave it too late though, because the lines will be really busy going on in, and you could win a superb Eurosport watch. Hey, you and I ought to into this one. At my last count, I was down to 24 watches. You see, I collect these things. You know, I've got all sorts of different watches from all over the place, and one thing I haven't got is a Eurosport watch. Can we enter?
Well, who would you prognosticate, Dave, between our own private little prognostication survey today? Who would you put down to win from the stage today?
If I do this, you can guarantee, dear viewer, that you shouldn't put any money on it because it's going to come wrong. Now then, who would I guess out of this little lot today? I reckon these three are going to get caught. That's the first thing. And then you go back to the main pack to see who's going to get the stage victory at the end of it all. Do you know what I would do? I'd pick Armstrong.
So would I.
Oh, you're cheating just because I said it, eh?
No, I reckon that Armstrong would like to win it today.
Just to say to you, right?
Exactly.
Why, if this happens.
No, I think I would. But also Armstrong is very upset with what's been going on, what's been said as well, which I totally understand and sympathise with him. And I think he would, in normal circumstances, he might say, OK, well, I have the yellow jersey. I'm on my way to winning a Tour de France. So what? What about another stage? I won the prologue, won a time trial, won a mountain stage. So what's the stage into Pau? But I still think that he has some kind of, how to say in French, a compte à régler, which means he wants to be able to say to everybody else, here you are now, I've won the stage in the flat now as well, so we can talk about it later on.
Well, there we are. We just saw Armstrong going out and getting a drink from the car coming through. The team managers come along with the bottle. There's a little dodge in the game when they put the bottle out. It's a bit naughty, but it only lasts about, 3 or 4 metres when the rider holds onto the bottle and eventually takes it off the rider. They all do it, actually. You're not allowed to hang on to the car at all normally if you're coming up alongside your team manager, because here's Johan Brunel is talking to Lance Armstrong and also radioing back to Mark Gorski in the following group. He's taken a drink from his team manager and he's waiting. The only car you can hang on to is the doctor's car when you've got a problem and he wants to give you some stomach pills or to spray your knee or to put some bandage on your wrist. But it's a way they just do this thing. It's a professional thing, isn't it?
It is, but at the same time, Dave, he couldn't do it going up a hill.
No.
You go on the flat here or it's going down a little bit, so it's tolerated because it's not going to help them in any way at all.
No.
We have seen it the past few days, riders getting some bottles from a car going uphill. It doesn't last very long, and it's only on exceptional circumstances because the day was very, very hot.
And the other thing too, apart from that, going up with the hands there to get the drink, you're steadying yourself too, aren't you? Because if you're wandering, we saw that crash when Jimmy, come back to it. The Australian rider, got hit by the following car, didn't he? As he came back off the car and then got dislodged by another car.
But it's also, look at here, you see the wing mirror of the car.
Yes.
If you're actually sitting away from the car, by holding onto the car, your bike follows the line of the car, which means there's no switching and banging and tapping your handlebars off the car door, or you have less risk of catching the wing mirror in your handlebars, which can be very painful, I'm told. So the idea of hanging onto the car is basically so that your bike will follow the flow with the car, so you have less chance of accident. So it may look as if people are maybe cheating there or whatever by putting their hands on the car. It's safer than actually not putting a hand on the car.
Scott Sunderland, that was it, wasn't he, who got bumped by the car and then brought down the crash and got run over behind. So it's very dangerous when they're amongst it. So the officials just look at it, and it's not actually assisting the rider. They just touch the car when they're going and having a drink, talking alongside there, but it's in no way are they being towed for assistance. And I belong to an era, actually, Stephen, when they had proper door handles. It's a bit of chrome, you see, and the glint of the chrome would go up. You're on the door handle, like I didn't used to do it, but I've seen it done by naughty boy at the back. But what happens now is that as Armstrong's going away...
This is interesting, Dave. Now, cut you off for a second. Even the Banesto is now riding very strong. So
yes,
this group could catch and more than likely will catch the group of Tonkoff in the front.
Yeah, I'm convinced, actually, that they're trying to give Dufo and Veron completely smash it out. So as we go into tomorrow's stage, Armstrong, Escartin and Zuller are so far away from everybody else. That's it. I've got that gut feeling now. Going back to the cars too, the helicopters, they've also got commissaires in the mountains up in the helicopters, haven't they now, looking to make sure that riders aren't hanging onto cars, onto the roof racks and being towed up, and also they're not being pushed up by the spectators. So it's a very well-organised sport in that respect. If you see it momentarily happening on your screen, it is not to get unfair advantage. It's in fact very often to be a safety feature. Well, I hope that's answered the telephone call we had in from one of our viewers I don't know, it was in Great Britain or where it was from. And the fax messages, I say I've been getting like 20 a day so far. If I haven't had time to respond to them all today, because it's been very active again, please bear with me. But thanks for the comments that have been coming through from you, the viewers. And we look forward to hearing from you on the way in towards the finish in Paris. And again, I understand there's a stack of mail back at home in Great Britain. I do have most of August off except the weekends. I'll do what I can to answer your queries. But believe you me, a sack full of mail and sitting in the saddle here for 7 hours a day and travelling to and from doesn't give us much time to do anything else but chat.
Well, Dave, we've been talking here for the last few minutes, and I was asking you who you felt might be in line to win the stage today. You said Armstrong, and I confirmed that my choice was Armstrong, and when you gave me your explanation for it, I agreed with you that they were my explanations as well. I just heard coming across from the French television a few minutes ago that Paul Sherwin told the French television this morning after having a telephone interview with Lance Armstrong last night, and that was, number one is to go to the French press after the finish today and on the French television and explain openly and honestly the reasons why things are the way they are as regards to the cortisone and everything else. And number two is to show everybody in France that, well, you know, what they've been talking about is actually a lot of bull. It has hurt me, and I want to get revenge. And the only way of getting revenge is to go out and win the stage.
Wow, so that confirms what we thought. I thought he got angry. If you get a Texan that's angry, I expect he's just like a raging bull out there. Because
what about an Irishman?
Well, an Irishman too, yeah. You start fighting, the Texans just try and show off then, don't they? But we're right behind what Armstrong's been saying, and tomorrow we'll be able to give you the official line, both from the UCI and from his team, about the haranguing in the newspapers. And there's nothing we can do to stop it. Everybody's entitled to their opinions. It just sort of shakes me solid when I see things being written by journalists who are just in there to create a bit of a stir.
Well, actually, Dave, just to say something in passing, I met a journalist at the start of the tour, a very well-reputed journalist here in France. And we're talking about everything goings on and everything else, you know. And he says to me, well, Stephen says, if there's no scandal in this tour, we'll find some.
Right.
Whereas when a journalist says that, I don't want to discredit journalists or ever, but there's a terrible feeling around this whole tour. There are some journalists at the moment writing negative things about the tour, and I don't say they're wrong, totally wrong. But at the same time, there's so much positive things happening with the Tour de France here. There's so much positive things happening in cycling and in our sport that people are not really ready to accept and to appreciate. There's an awful lot of work being done in the last 12 months. An awful lot of damage was done last year, but I feel sincerely that in the last 12 months, a lot of good has been done. When you look at the riders today, we look at the riders over the last few days in the mountains, there is change in their face, there is change in their performances. So I acknowledge that change and admit that things have changed in cycling, and I feel that in a couple of years' time to come, in a very short future, I reckon that cycling will be a pioneer in the fight against doping, and also cyclists will be a symbol for other sports to look at as to this is a sport that have cleaned up sports from drugs.
This group here, less than 1 minute behind our leading threesome. There's a determination about the way they're riding, and Armstrong is driving this along towards the finish in Po. They're 48 seconds behind those three riders who've ridden magnificent during the day. This man is starting on your screen for Kelme, driving it hard too. His teammate here, who's been also working extremely hard for him, Contreras, every man in this group too, because Zulla's driving through with his teammate from the Benesto squad. Even Echeverry's teammate here is just hanging on the wheels. He can't do anything to take part in this one, but I have a suspicion that once they catch up with that leading threesome, this group could go to the finish. Not seeing much work from the young lad at the back here, Winnicroft. No, perhaps he's a bit stuffed, eh?
Well, probably a bit stuffed, but at the same time, a guy like that, he's got a reasonably good sprint, so he could surprise everybody when you take into consideration that everyone else is riding, or practically everybody else in the group is riding.
Well, Arrieta then driving along with Zulla, and at the back here we just see this young lad Winnicroft hanging on in there, and the other rider just in front of him, Garcia from Vitello Seguros.
I think it's great to see here, Dave, the Zulu, Armstrong and Escarting riding in the front, because you often get the main jokers or the main riders in the Tour basically letting their teammates do all the work and so on. Whereas this year, the Tour, we see like the Escarting on the front now this very minute. Armstrong just after finishing off his turn. And we have here, in 1 second, we'll see Zule coming up and doing his bit. So it's great to see it.
Well, as yet, Serrano for the Once team has been just riding in shotgun behind that leading, 4 or 5 riders. I think by the time they catch up with Echeverry, he might also start to contribute. Go back to that little group. This is a chain, what we call it. One man goes on the front, goes through. That's Zulla. Then Armstrong comes through. And then...
Yeah, the boys here now, they know that the Armstrong group is coming up, so they start there to back off a little. So they're having a kind of a nature break, you might call it.
So as they take a natural break, the rest of the group will certainly come up to any moment. And you see the cars beginning to come out, the officials' cars moving out, the Mavic car here, the neutral service moving out, and the Mape quick step per team car will drop back. Tonkov's done a wonderful... This has been great, these threesome. They're going to give up now, Stephen, but they took off going up the Col de Tourmalet. They took off by which time we'd done just some 50 kilometres of racing. We've what in the last 20k, they've done something around about 120 thereabouts kilometres out there in the front, and they've romped over. I won't say romped, they've fought over the Col de Tourmalet, fought over the Col de Soula, fought over the Col de Obis. These three riders on your screen now. It was Ellie in the pink and white that was in the lead on the Col de Tourmalet, just ahead of Tonkov. They're sitting up in the blue and the white colours. Echeverry in the black and the yellow went over in third spot. By the time we got the Col de Soula, Tonkov was first over the climb, then Ellie second, Echeverry third. The Col de Obisque with 61 kilometres to go. They'd survived there. Ellie was first, Tonkov was second, Echeverry was in third spot. Echeverry has been third all the way through on the climbs. He won the stage in the Tour this year into Saint-Flour, and when they get stuck in now, I think will they take a short breather and then take part in the chase?
I reckon they won't ride there because they're quite entitled not to ride. If they don't ride, it would be very interesting to see Ellie in the sprint, because Ellie's a good sprinter. So, OK, he's been out there a long time, but if he can kind of sit in the wheels for the next 25, 30k into the finish, he could be fresh enough to be able to take on Armstrong and the likes of him in the sprint.
But now we see these are the three chaps who've been away all day. Echeverry has been caught. We've got Serrano also from the Ante Deutsche Bank team, and we'll probably get the cameras just away. Isn't it about time he started to participate, because he's been sitting in the wheels while they caught his teammate? Isn't it time if you've got somebody left to come through and drive this as well?
Logically, yes, but then they might say, oh, Orlano's behind, so we can't.
And of course, the Benesto have got 2 men in this group, eh?
Yeah, so it's even though Orlano is well down now in GC, it's a lame excuse, put it that way. But nevertheless, I'd say that's the excuse they'll be using, even still.
So inside 35 kilometres to go to the finish in Po. We've had the finishes here 54 times. This is the 86th Tour of France. We've been here 54 times.
And Sean Kelly, when we came here in 84, I think 83 maybe it was, 83, yeah. Sean Kelly won the stage here and took on his one and only yellow jersey.
82.
82, was it?
Yes.
No, 83.
82.
I didn't ride 82, Dave.
Well, so 82 in the books here.
Yes, well, he may have won a stage.
He won the stage, yeah.
But he also took over the yellow jersey here.
It could be
in 83.
Yeah, when Chevalier won the stage.
Probably, yeah.
But he won the stage in 82. Well, it's printed here, you know. It could be a mistake.
Yeah, no, he may not have won the stage, but he put the yellow jersey on here in 83.
Right.
And I got the best young riders award at the time for being the white Bonux, which is a washing powder sponsor at the time. So two of us were on the podium at the same time. So it was 83. Look at Virenque here on your screen here with a kind of smirk on his face. You know.
Well, he's not bothered. He's got the polka dot jersey, hasn't he?
Well,
But he's got to be pretty careful, though.
I'm sure he's bothered.
Like I say, he's got to be bothered because the gap is opening up now, because the three top men in the general classification, Armstrong, Escartin and Zullas, are on your screen now. He started this morning 7:26 down on Armstrong, but the gap back to Virenque was just a couple of minutes, 2:20, and what he's doing now is driving a big hole, and Escartin too is going to make sure that Duffield is back in that group, can't overtake. We're looking probably at the first, second and third in Paris, providing we don't have any crashes or problems or sicknesses from now on into the finish, beginning to set themselves up. That big time trial can change things, but generally speaking, those top three men, Armstrong, Escartin and Zulla, are riding now to make the rest suffer.
Well, last night a Swiss radio program said to me, Stephen, who's your top three for Paris? I said, I reckon Armstrong, second, I reckon Zulle will take over the second place of Escartin in the time trial, and Escartin will be third. So he says, and Duffield will be fourth. And the report said to me, would you not see Defoe beating Escartin and finishing third overall? I said, well, you know, he's going to be on a really, really stomper of a day.
And there he is
here on the screen at the moment, to be able to put 2 minutes or so into Escartin. So now Escartin now is putting much more time into Defoe, which is confirming more the podium in Paris as to the first three places.
So the chase is on with the lead group containing Armstrong and the Virenque group now battling it out to see if they can merge going into the finish in Paris with about 30 kilometres to go. The whole string of riders here in that chase group, you can just see how the speed is up chasing after this man Armstrong, who's in the lead group. They caught our three breakaway riders who took off early today on the climb of the Col de Tourmalet. Elie, Tonkov and Echeverria back in this group, but here you're watching the first and third men on classification. Lance Armstrong, the determination is written all over his face, and Zulla's doing the same thing, and Escartin 1, 2 and 3 in the Tour de France. You're seeing him on the screen now coming off that mountain, going on the flatter part. Look, here goes the green line, there it goes down there on the run-in. It's a pretty smooth run-in, a little bit of descent, a slight headwind, by the way. It isn't easy going down here, and they're determined to blast a big hole between themselves and the Alano Duffield Virenque group, which is 3 minutes 25 seconds behind. They'll be coming up shortly to the 25 kilometre go sign. You're going to watch on Eurosport, those you're watching live in the afternoon, a tremendous day. Stephen, we say that every day. This tour, despite what some of the gutter press have been saying, I've seen some cracking racing. We've had day after day, things have been different stage winners, different people in the yellow jersey, and you know, I haven't had a day when I've gone back to the hotel and I thought, I hope I don't get another day like that. Every day, even in the sprint days, we had some of the days when they were working hard, fetching things back, sprinting, and I couldn't contain Russell Williams. He was jumping up and down like a jack-in-the-box with those sprints. So we've had something since we started nearly 3 weeks ago, and still today. Who would have thought at this stage we'd have found Escartin in a group driving for a finish, eh?
Definitely. It's I think today was a day that everyone was looking forward to being an easy day. From speaking to the lads in the park in the village this morning, they were saying, well, so far we haven't had a rest day at all, but it's going to come someday. So why not today? Because the classification is more or less done now. So the top of the obelisk is so far from the finish that it'll discourage some of the leaders from battling it out, and you might get a group going from behind and a tempo may behind then, and that's it. But in actual fact, we've seen the big guns firing right from the first climb, and we've had an incredible stage today so far, and it's still breathtaking when you see that the three people on the general classification, 1, 2 and 3, Armstrong, Escartin and Zulle, riding in the front to forge the gap even greater between themselves, and Virenque, Defoe and Orlano behind.
Well, let's then confirm in this leading group, we've got those men who set the pace from the climb at the Tourmalet, Tonkov, Ele and Echeverria. This is a little chase group, mainly concerned with Mayer here, Renero and Simon, the little three men wedged in between our leaders and the main pack. But in that main group then, Tonkov, Ele and Echeverria, Serrano from the Once team, Vinokurov from Casino, Escartin Contreras from the Calme team, Garcia from the Benesto squad, with Zula also from the Benesto squad, and Arrieta and Armstrong. So we've got a cracking group of 12 men in the front group, and these three trying to get across the gap to catch up with Armstrong. It might get a bit too big if this lot come on board, or will they still add some power to it? Because these lads, the Cofidis boys, have not come out the tour with very much since the crash of Bobby Julich in the time trial at Metz.
Well, the way that front group is going, Dave, I cannot see this group getting back onto them at all. They might even be caught by Vihang's group, although I doubt that. But I cannot see them getting on to the group of Tonkov and the yellow jersey.
Well, a fascinating Tour de France we've had so far, and looking back at the finishes in Pau, the first time it came here was in 1930 when Binder won the stage. It came again in 32 Palicia, 31 Palicia, 32 Ronsi, 33 Guerra, 34 Vitieu, 35 Morelli, and it went right the way through until 1939, and then it stopped because of the war. And it came back after that with the first stage being here in 1947, and it went on from then onwards with a roll call of very honourable gentlemen that won into here. And I can see the name 1982, Sean Kelly was in there, but also not let's forget your other countryman, 1980, Martin Early clopped off, didn't he, and got the stage, eh?
That's right, Jim Martin, another great stage win here, and the stages into Pau are always won by good names, and no stage into Pau has ever been an easy stage. And
to think also in 1990, Konashev won a stage into Pau. He's also won a stage this year in the Tour de France, so 9 years difference between Konashev, the Russian, the first Russian to win a stage in the Tour de France, and that was 9 years ago. Konashev won a stage into Pau, and he's won a stage this year as well in the Tour de France. A 9-year career in stage victories for Konashev for the Mercatonona Bianchi team.
The group now behind is getting themselves organised, but I still reckon they may catch the group of Renero and Mayer and Francois Simon, but I cannot see them catching the yellow jersey group.
We are looking at the way that Armstrong have been driving the group. This is the group here behind, and there is Dufo in the red and white Psycho Cannondale. Looks like he's going to be further and further away from getting a place on the podium on this stage going in. He doesn't seem to be doing much work to chase that lot down. I haven't seen him come to the front very much.
Maybe he can't really. He's gone through a little bit okay, but the same thing, there's many riders and many teams in this group here have interests in riding, because you have like the Kelme in the front getting more points for the team classification. You have the Dufo, who's losing time on his 4th place overall. You have Nardello trying to hold on to a 6th place. There's a lot of riders. Look, there's more races here than we can even imagine, I think. I can even just thinking myself that there's a few races here that there's a team classification. There's the 6th, 7th, and 8th overall on general classification being fought out here, or being fought out, or maybe being lost, maybe. But there's definitely a lot of reason for this group to ride hard.
And there, Richard Vironk, well, he's got the polka dot jersey. Perhaps he's resigned himself to the fact he's 5th overall in general classification, and perhaps he's not worried too much. Belly 15-16 in that league group. Well, he's some 6 minutes behind Vironk, so I can't see him overtaking him on general classification. The biggest loser today will be the gap that's opening up between the top 3 men, Armstrong, Escartin and Zuller, and Dufo 8:36 back. Vironk 9:46. Vironk was some 3.5 minutes down on Escartin this morning. I don't think he would have beaten Escartin by 3.5 minutes in a time trial. So in reality, the man that's benefiting most of all, if this lot continues to go like this, is Fernando Escartin. Will be up there with a chance to survive the time trial, when Dufo would probably go a notch better. So fascinating days racing. That leading group, the last time check we'd got was 2 minutes 40 seconds back to the group containing Vironk, Dufo and Alano, and they're still driving on. Belly's now coming through to drive this one along as well. There's the team tactics are coming into it as well, because the team battle is going on into today's stage. The team classification, I'll give you a quick rundown on what that one was, because that's also rather complex, or that is complex. The Benesto team, no wonder they're driving hard, because they got Zuller and one of his teammates down there. I think think it is. We'll have to check them in. But Benesto, the overall team leaders on the general classification. Onto Deutsche Bank, still got 2 men in that breakaway group. Was second this morning, 6 minutes 27. Festina watches, they have got 1 man up in that lead group, but they haven't got a man in the lead group, so they've got to drive this one. Festina watches, they're in third at 11 minutes 04. Mappe Quickstep got Tonkov in the lead group this morning, 11 minutes 18 down on Benesto team. Kelme Costa Blanca 13:44. So Kelme doing to do what they can to get over the top of Festina and Mappe and make it a Spanish 1, 2 and 3 on the classifications. But it could all change on the flatter course when we go in for the next few days, and particularly with the time trial. Well, this main pack seems to be getting bigger containing Baron. Must be more riders coming up from behind, Stephen.
Probably, yeah, but there's still 1 minute 40 coming across my radio. 1 minute 40 down on the yellow jersey of Armstrong.
So there we are. Oh, they must have cut it back because it was 2:40.
It was, yeah. Maybe it's a mistake coming over. Maybe it's from Simon.
Yeah,
maybe it's from Simon's group.
Yes, Mayor Simon. Yeah, here we are. So 25 kilometres to go for the leading group as they're now on their way in towards Po, where there's been some very great finishes in the past. And as Steve Rose sitting alongside me was saying, the day when Sean Kelly not only got the stage victory the following year when he took over the yellow jersey, Martin Early having won a stage here too. And with Armstrong driving along in that leading group, you see him coming through here, determined, I think, to show that he's the boss, and also wanting to make a point or two about the press. But we must not forget, Stephen, and I will never forget, and you'll never forget, that in 1995 we had a stage into here after the death of Fabio Casatelli, who was a teammate of Armstrong's in the Motorola day, and that was an amazing day when the whole team Motorola came down in the finishing straight into Po at the front of the race, wearing the black armbands and the black ribbons on the following cars. It was a very disturbing day, one of the hardest days of commentating I had to do. And Armstrong and his team lived through that terrible occasion. And I would just like, in memory of Fabio Casatelli, to see that man, Armstrong, get this victory today, to show the press what he means. And I'm sure that Casatelli up there would be urging him on.
Definitely. Well, like the following day after that, if you remember, Dave, or 2 days later, I think it was, Lance Armstrong actually won the stage himself, and what's fine style, he won it as well. But Armstrong has been, I must say, been very, very good in his interviews. He's been very straight, very calculated, and at the same time very open in his interviews. And I believe myself that Lance Armstrong is as clean as a whistle, like I might say, because I think a man that's come back from where he's come back from, I think you doesn't want to take a shortcut to going back again. So I reckon he's come close once and wants to kind of stay away from that where he's come from. And I reckon everything he's doing here, the tour, is done on his own steam. He must remember that Lance Armstrong was also the youngest world champion
in 1993
at 21 years of age.
Yes.
So like he had shown a certain potential even then. So his career was stopped then because of injury or because of his illness, and he's basically taken up where he's left off. He's more mature, he's older, so and everything going for him. So it's by no means just a kind of flash in the pan or where does this guy come from nowhere to winning the Tour de France. He actually has had an incredible career. I started my first tour in 83, and it was only in 87 that I won the tour after finishing third in it in 85. But the Tour de France is difficult to come into it and win it. Greg LeMond and Laurent Fignon were probably two exceptions that I know of that would have won the tours in their first and second year.
And Max was
probably Max as well, probably, yeah. But there's very few that actually do that. Generally, riders are around 27, 28 years of age before they come to maturity and in line to win the Tour de France.
Well, they've gone through that 25 kilometre to go, and the chase crew, I think they're going to suck up that little group. I didn't press my watch, I'm sorry, we'll hear it. 2 minutes 40 seconds. Yes, coming 2 minutes 40 seconds back to this chase group now, just coming over our headphones. That might have been back to the little group you just saw down the road, but it's certainly about 2:42, 45, because they're going to swallow up Mayer and Raniero. Here they go, and Simon all back in the pack, which has been activated. I think looks like the Psycho Cannondale people. Lotto also beginning to drive this one forward. Vitalis Figueros also involved in this little chase, because there isn't much chance from now on in to get stage victories, because once we go in the next couple of days, it's going to be down to the sprinters, and after that we get into the time trial as well.
Well, we're going to see another kind of race tomorrow. People are kind of saying, oh, well, we're getting back into the flat, it's going to be okay. But I think that the next 2 days, you're going to get riders that are 35, 40 minutes down, even an hour down on GC, having to go from the line, because otherwise we're going to arrive into Bordeaux or into Futuroscope, and we're going to have big sprints. And in the sprints, you only have a limited number of sprinters left in the peloton, and every team does not have a sprinter. So teams that have not got sprinters, I reckon they'll be launching themselves off in the early part of the stage tomorrow and Friday in the hope they can stay away and maybe win the stage.
Days feel like Jackie Durand, who's leading on the combativity classification. Lotto could do with some success, couldn't they? So teams that haven't done so much would like to get together, drive the thing forward. Big Matt Ober always prepared to have a go.
Exactly. Like, it's fair, like this Tour de France so far, there has not been one stage win by a French rider. And in the group in front, of Lance Armstrong's group in the front, there's not one French rider in it. So it's very disappointing.
According to the press, it's a tour of deux vitesses. There's two speeds. You see, the French are going slower than everybody else, so they say.
Well, they say because in France they have stricter controls and they have
rubbish.
But I think long term it may have something to do with it, but I think it's an easy way out for the French riders, really.
So that's going to be. Oops, the jazz band's just gone through. Playing away, they come through every day. Just imagine playing your saxophone or your trumpet and bashing them on the big bass drum and also on the bass itself, entertaining the people along the way. The caravan then wending its way through towards the finish, but the question is, will the lead group containing Armstrong be able to stay ahead of this group, which are 240 back at the moment? 20 kilometres to go for the lead group, just coming up over the radio tour. That's not this group on your screen. This is the group containing Alano and Veronk and most of all Dufo, who've been losing ground today on the run-in. And so the gap, last time check we had, was 2 minutes and 40 seconds. The main riders working hard in the front are the Lotto team and the riders from the Psycho Cannondale team working through here. And no sign of Veronk's lot coming through here. No sign. Well, because it's Dufo, it's got to be the Italians, hasn't it, going for this one?
Well, it has to be, because
but then why the Belgians get involved? Why the Lotto team?
You probably
involved?
find there's somebody there in general classification somewhere, Dave.
I think it's Van der Voort is 10th at the moment.
Yeah.
Yes, because down the road, Tonkov and Echevarria are in that break group, and behind Van der Voort, 16 minutes 41 seconds. Tonkov's 19, so it's got 3 minutes back to Tonkov, and another 4 minutes back to Echevarria. So there's no great threat, I wouldn't have thought, to Van der Voort, but you never know. But they can't let it go, can they? They've got to keep that gap down to about 2 minutes.
Yeah, but at the same time, people do ride very hard to get into the first 10 in the Tour, and this is probably one of those opportunities that someone has of getting into the top 10. Maybe Orlano may not even be in this group, so they might even move up to 9th place overall. But at the same time, if Tonkov and Echevarria finish ahead of him, so far ahead of him, then he might lose his first top 10 placings. Yeah, and
particularly maybe in the time trial, because maybe Tonkov or Echevarria might be that notch faster. So that's the reason why the Lotto group are chasing. And look at the speed here. This race, so once we came over that first climb, I mean, they drifted up to the top. They were still doing about 20 miles an hour. To the top of the, I shouldn't say this, but they make it look so easy, these chaps. But over the top of the Col d'Aspin, after 35 kilometres, Piccoli was the one who went over the top in first place. Veronk second, Arrieta third, McEwen there into fourth spot over the Col d'Aspin. Once we came down the other side, and we got about 45 kilometres around our belt, the race has exploded. So for the last 140 kilometres, we have not seen any let-up in this race at all, and now look at them driving on here, and to see, as you're seeing on your screen here, Zuller and Armstrong driving hard. The Jet Bell is taking part in this group now. We've also got the Kelmy boys having a go. This is a tremendous race, and it's team against team too, isn't it, with the Benastos and the Kelmys trying to sort out the Once teams. And no wonder the two chaps here in this group, Echevarria together with Serrano, are not contributing.
It is, yes. We were seeing there on the screens a few minutes ago, we saw Lance Armstrong first of all taking his hand off the bars and shaking his hand as if he kind of burned it. Then we saw Alex Zülle doing the very same thing. It's simply because the road here you see coming down off the top of the abyss is basically all false flat descending all the way down. So I mean, they're all the time with the hands down in the hooks of the bars. And that does give you a bit of a kind of pain sometimes in the palms of your hands. And they have been riding for the last 2.5 weeks, nearly 3 weeks as well. So the accumulation of things means your hands do get very sore, and it means you're going to shake them around a bit to get the blood circulating back through it again.
And they've been riding for something like 5 hours as well, as we watch the Telmy boys go through. Tremendous performance here by Contreras leading through, and Escartin leading through, and Armstrong just signalling to his team car, I think. But they're coming into the last 20 kilometres, or they're inside that now. They shouldn't be able to take drinks, should they, normally? Well, on a hot day, maybe? Or just wants information?
Well, we haven't seen a 20-kilometre go board yet, David.
I thought I heard on my headphones they're 20 to go. Perhaps I'm wrong. Ah, yes, they were. Just said on the headphones to US Postal that feeding's terminated, finished. So they are inside 20 kilometres. They just said over the headphones, US Postal, that feeding's finished. US Postal. Yes, they just shouting terminate, US Postal terminate. Said it's finished, the handing of drinks. So they are inside 20 kilometres to go. Armstrong went back. Vinokurov at the back here, just drifting in the wheels for Casino, the young rider, 21-year-old. To find himself in this company at this stage of the Tour de France, Stephen, it's a great performance. It stage 16. He's not all the way up on general classification, but he's stayed in the mountains. He's been there. He's climbed today with the best in the mountains, dropped off, got back again. And although he's getting a toe here, he's showing, I think, quite an old head on the young body.
No, it's a great performance by Vinokurov. You see Vincent Lavenu there coming up beside his man and having a chat with him, probably advising him as to the finish, because Vinokurov, being a young rider, would not have maybe had an opportunity to come to Pau that often, so he'd be explaining to him as to what the actual final 15 kilometres is like, but more importantly, what the final 3 or 4 kilometres is like, to help him maybe prepare himself for a final attack, or even put himself in the right position for the sprint.
Well, Arrieta's still driving hard with Zulab to keep this thing going. The other two riders from the Calme Costa Blanca team, Escartin and Contreras, driving hard as well. Armstrong's gone back for a bit of a breather and a chance to have a chat to his team manager. The last time check I had on my headphones, 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So they are drifting away drifting away, but they are, aren't they?
Floating away.
Floating away. 177 kilometres on your screen on this stage today, coming 192 kilometres in all.
There's no let up at all from this front group. They just keep powering along.
And fancy these lads here, particularly both the mountain climbers, find themselves on a flatland running into Pau. This is a new experience for them, and I hope you people at home are enjoying watching it on Eurosport. There are just inside 15 kilometres to go to the finish of this stage. Stage 16 from Lannemezan to Pau. 192 kilometres in all. That's 120 miles of racing. That's belly on your screen. Just in front of Arrieta in the blue and white for the Banesto team. The other blue and white colours of Banesto is Alex Zuller. They're up the front, driving this one on. And the last time check we had 2 minutes and 50 seconds. The gap they go round this furniture in the midst of the road. They managed to do it quite safe and sound, this leading group of riders. Just to recap who's in this little group for you, we've just been picking up the blue and white colours of the Banesto team, Arrieta and Zuller. In the yellow jersey, Lance Armstrong has been driving hard. The two riders with the green shorts from the Calme Costa Blanca team are Escartin, together with his teammate Contreras. In the little breakaway group as well, we've got Echeverria from the Once Deutsche Bank team and his teammate Serrano. They're riding in the blackish coloured jersey. They're sitting at the back. We're now going back to the chase group here at the gap, 2 minutes 50 seconds last time we saw it. Also in that little leading group, when we go back...
How come the Mappé are riding through? That's strange, with Tonkov being in the front.
Good question, Stephen. You're complicating life here.
That's a strange tactics on their behalf. The Tonkov would be their leader, although he lost at our time yesterday. I know, but
Steele's won't be there, so there's no chance of a sprint finish.
No. And Tonkov himself is a reasonable sprinter.
Good question, Stephen.
Anyway, Dave, you're saying...
No, you've thrown me now, because I can't understand why the hell they should ride.
No.
We will have to...
Investigate.
I've no doubt that talking and bending a few ears over the evening might...
Nardello.
Ah, got it, because Nardello's better place. You've got him.
Yeah.
He was better than...
11:33, yeah.
So now Tonkov's been caught. They wouldn't attack while he was on his own, so now they're having a go. Yes, because Nardello, 11:33. And so, yes, they've got to chase a bit here, but, well...
It's strange that they was
why chase
riding
anyway?
for sixth place.
Yeah, why chase for sixth place? Because
3:05, the gap is going up now again. 3:05 now.
Do they think that Nardello, who is at the moment some 5 minutes back on Escarting, if they even cut it back to 3 minutes, do they think Nardello can beat Escarting in the move up then probably from 6th to 5th?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, fascinating. Anyway, at least they're racing, and but they're not doing any good. They're losing another 10 seconds. So this group at the front, with Escarting burying himself, just going through with his teammate at the front there. They still Escarting driving this one on hard. And this is an experience, I think, which he's going to tell his grandchildren about later on. Not only did he get the stage victory, but he was there in a break group coming into Pau and riding his socks off as his teammate comes through, Contreras. And there they are, looking towards the back of this group. Still no action from the two lads from the team of Halano, and I'm not surprised they're not. So really Belly there for the Festina Watches team. He's riding hard too because they want to improve their position on the team classification. Ellie has eased back a bit in the Telecom pink and white. He was with that break that set off quite early on in the race. The action we had at the start of this race today, the stage from Lannemezan to Pau, 192 kilometres. We had a sprint after 16 kilometres. Saint Colin when Debarbe got that one. Zabel second, O'Grady third. Up the Col d'Aspin, Piccoli, Veronc, Arieta and McEwen. And then down the Col d'Aspin into the valley and up toward the Col de Tourmalet. That's when it split. And that's when the people you see on your screen start to go away. Ellie, Tonkov and Echevarria, they went over the top of the Col de Tourmalet in that order, and they persisted for the next climb, the Soulor and the Aubisque, and it wasn't until we came down off the top of the Aubisque that the chase group, including the yellow jersey Armstrong, caught up with them, and that's what you're seeing now when they're wending in. They should be coming up till the 10 kilometres to go, and the last time check we got was 2 minutes and 50. In fact, now it's 3 minutes and 5 seconds. They are going away.
Yeah, they're very well organised in front, because behind the group, you have a couple of different teams there riding in the front. You have the Mapei now coming through as well and giving a hand out, but at the same time their group in the front are really committed. Maybe it's the fact that Diffo and Vihank and Nardello are behind that they're actually giving it all for all, but nevertheless they're 3 minutes up now with less than 15k to go, so you might have thought they might have backed off a little bit, but no, not in this case. They're still going. Look at the Kelmy riders there, just giving it everything they have.
Two minutes 35 seconds. Oh, so it's come down then. It was 3:05, so I can't quite understand this changing, and it took to go 3:05 and then back again now. Well, we'll do our little check on. Armstrong's dropped back towards the tail end of this little group. I suppose that he has the right to do that. Oh, he's having a chat now with Zuller as to whether they're going to drive this one on, but should they have to keep going to keep that distance, 10 kilometres and just over 2.5 minutes, it should be possible to stay away, shouldn't it? But of course people like Escarting want a bigger time gap, don't they?
Yeah, it's they should wonder really what they could be saying, you know. There's like with Armstrong not having any teammates there, it's dangerous for him even to be riding in the front, because if he punctures, nobody's going away from him, and he'll have used up a lot of energy in riding that he might have needed if he punctures, because whereas with Zule punctures, he has two teammates with him to give a wheel or to wait for him, so Armstrong is in a delicate position here.
Again, then, we're coming over headphones, the things that you can see on your screen, that the Calma Costa Blanca Eurosport team are doing most of the work. Ali hasn't come through recently. One would expect that because he's been away with that lead group. But those riders up there still driving hard at the front. Perhaps he went back because Armstrong was doing a lot of driving earlier on, and perhaps he wants to come back again, having had that rest. We'll see how we go if Armstrong goes back to the front, or Armstrong must say, no, I'm just going for the ride now, and I'll try and win the sprint. We shall see. What a battle we've got on here with that group. It's yo-yoing, this chase group here, with various different fish to fry, because the Mapei team chasing down their man Tonkov, who's up in the leading group, is now 2:47, so it's this yo-yoing, this gap. Mapei, because Nardello in their team is up there in the top 10 placing this morning in 6th spot overall, 11:33 down, and I think the fear is that if they don't keep working, Escarting could well stay on the podium by the time we get to the Champs-Élysées on Sunday. Armstrong overall leader this morning by 6 minutes 19 seconds from Escartin. Zuller in third spot, 7:26. They're in the breakaway group, and the people are losing out today. Dufo was fourth this morning. Veronco was fifth this morning. Nardello sixth this morning. Casero from Vito Segura seventh this morning. Alano eighth are in that back group. But in the front group, Vladimir Belli, who was ninth this morning, is determined to drive this thing hard as well. And the Calvi team have to keep as much distance in time they can do of Escartin away from the rest of the people like Dufo and Veronco, because he's not the world's greatest time trialist. And the chase here also being involved not only by the Mappe team who want to bring make sure Nardello's in a good position, but Van der Voe this morning, the young Lotto rider, was in 10th spot, 16 minutes 41 seconds down. So there's a lot of action going on here, and as they go through, and my watch says it's 2 minutes and 40 seconds is the gap. The last time check we had officially 2:47. So if they are only pulling back, say, 10 seconds per kilometre, and it's now 10 kilometres to finish, that's 110 seconds. That is about 2 minutes. They could probably just about close that gap down and catch the leaders coming to the edge of Po. But you never know with this business, do you, Stephen?
No, I reckon the group in front will keep going for another 4 or 5k, and they might start hedging around then, because they're getting so close to the finish then that it wouldn't be, well, who's going to lead who out, and here's Vinokurov finally comes to the front with our friends from the Kelmy team. But that'll give the opportunity then for the riders back in the bunch then to close the gap down a little bit on this group here. But I reckon I can still see this group here finishing with some 2 minutes up.
And they're heading in towards Po. It's dead flat on the way in now. The crowd has started to gather. Many of the people have been watching it on television or out there on the early part of the course, come cutting into the finish in Po. It's the one-time capital of the Bern. It was Henry IV here, best loved of all French monarchs, was born here in 1553. It's also got that very beautiful Boulevard des Pyrénées with the famous view of the mountain range, which we can see in the background from our commentary point here. And it's an amazing place then, and it's waiting with a great big wide open street. It's one of the best run-ins we have. It narrows just a little bit, but the running from the outside, Stephen, is all these great wide roads, isn't it?
Po has always been a magnificent finish. We'll see it from our helicopter here as we get closer to the finish, but it's always been a fabulous finish and a spectacular finish. So I reckon today is going to be no different, especially with Lance Armstrong kind of announcing his feelings this morning to Paul Sherwin and ourselves, and guessing that this could be a kind of a fairy tale finish, but also putting the cork in the bottle, so to speak, with regards to the rumours that have been going around.
Well, it's very nice mild climate here, and well known to people who come here. They say that the mild climate has great curative powers, and they're certainly going to need to recover from a hard day's racing, as this lad from the Camo Costa Blanca, Contreras, starts to ride a bit too quick off the front. Well, it's been a place where the Brits have come in great numbers since the 19th century, and the fashion started when the Duke of Wellington's soldiers came here back on their route from the war with Spain and stayed here and enjoyed themselves. Many of their family came out subsequently, so the Brits have got quite a deal of connection with here. But in reality, we're now coming towards 5 kilometres to go, or 5 kilometres to go for this one. We've got an English-speaking rider in that main pack in the form of Lance Armstrong. We picked him as a likely winner of the stage today, but this young man gets away. That's it.
Armstrong's closing the gap, Dave.
Is that Armstrong or is that Vinokurov?
Looks very like the yellow, Dave.
Be careful.
But then having the casino got a bit of yellow in there as well. But I couldn't see Lance Armstrong's jersey back down the bunch, so I thought it must have been him. But everyone's going to look at each other now. So I reckon Contreras, Dave, could win the stage. I'd be very happy if he did win the stage, because he's worked very hard for his teammate over the climbs. And it'd also be great to see the Calmy team winning their second stage. And also, one thing I like to see is the bikes they're riding, Dave, is the Gios bike. Gios is one of the oldest names and the oldest bike builders in cycling. He's always had the same colour, which we call Gios Blue. And I had an opportunity of riding those bikes a few years ago, and I met the man himself a couple of times, and he's a very good friend of mine. And I must say, I'd be having the Gios bike winning 2 stages in a row in the Tour de France. I think it's a great credit to the man himself for the confidence he's had himself in the Calmy team over the last number of years.
Well, we shall see if he can stay away as they begin to split a bit, and the disruption has occurred as Contreras has hammered off down the road, and the question is, well, can he stay out there as we're now inside the final 5 kilometres? And Ellie about to go. Well, he was one of the riders who went away way back down the road. Ellie together with Echevarria and Tonkov. They're inside 4 kilometres, and they look like they've dragged back younger.
Contreras had given him so much energy earlier on, Dave. He's blown, he has.
Completely blown.
But Ellie and Vinokurov are still there, so unfortunately Lance Armstrong, Dave, I'm very sorry to say, but I cannot see him in there.
Well, I thought it wasn't him going down there. I thought it might have been this Vinokurov chap who's jumping around.
Yeah. But Ellie's a very good sprinter, so I would be more inclined to put the money on Ellie at the moment.
Arrietas, Echevarria, so it looks like they've actually given 2 riders from the Once team here, but I can only see one at the moment. I'm not sure whether
there's 2 there.
Yes, they are. So both Echevarria and Serrano are there at the moment, with Ellie and Contreras and Arrieta and Vinokurov. Ellie.
And they haven't done a lot of work during today of the Ultra team, huh?
No, well, Echevarria he did a little bit, but he followed the wheels for quite a long time, and then Serrano came up sitting in the wheels anyway.
Yeah,
so off the back now, it looks like Armstrong's not going to get the stage victory we had hoped he was going to get. He's back there with Escartin, so it's 2 minutes 20 seconds between this group and the main pack behind, and this 2 men from the Once Deutsche Bank team, Serrano and Echevarria. Echevarria, who got the stage victory in Saint-Flour on the uphill. This is going to be a sprint, and you're quite right, in fact, 3Ks to go, that Vinokurov could be in with a shout here, couldn't he? Although Ellie's a fast finisher too, isn't he?
Well, Vinokurov, we haven't really seen him in a big sprint, a pressure sprint like we have in Tour de France. We've seen him winning sprints in smaller races, but the Tour de France is always a little bit different. But Ellie is a cute old man himself. He's been around a long time now.
Armstrong at 20 seconds.
Yeah, so the Once are having a go, but Ellie is a man who has a lot of experience and very, very clever when it comes down to small group sprints.
Well, I think it's Echevarria going away now. Arrieta's coming up. Serrano's sitting in the wheels. Ellie, and then Vinokurov, and the young fellow from Camino Costa Blanca, Contreras. If I was him, I'd just sit on the wheels and get a bit of a tow. He tried to go away. They pulled him back. It's 10 seconds back to Tonkov, 20 seconds back to Armstrong at the moment.
Ellie is saying being clever. Like he knew that this other Once rider was going to have a go counter-attacking his partner.
Well, there we are, settling down then and trying to do the attack. Echevarria, that was without the hat. It's Serrano with the white hat. We want to pick out the 2 lads from the Once Deutsche Bank team. Ellie, pink and white for the Telecom team, looking back over his shoulders. Vinokurov just behind him. Oops, on the inside, he tried to go through, couldn't quite make it. 2 kilometres to go. Now, if they stall, they might be caught by Tonkov. They certainly won't be caught, I don't think, by Armstrong, who was 20 seconds back. He drove so hard with Zuller to make that break, and now he can't be in with a shout for the finish. People who are actually being on the wheels, being sucked along on the flat part coming in, have recovered. Ellie's done a magnificent ride today. He's the only one that's left out of the group that went away after some, 50 kilometres of racing. So Ellie's been out there for 140 kilometres. That's him in the pink and white. A very wise rider. He knows what to do. He's probably, of all these riders in this group, the man with the most experience. Looking back now, I think he's got to be careful not to put himself in the front of this group as they go into the final kilometres. Easy back now. Vinokurov, the youngest rider, I think, in this group, though. Echevarria, winner of the Tour d'Avenir a few years ago, still a bit on the young side. He starts to roll it up now. That's him down the right-hand side with the white hat, Echevarria.
Ellie is blocking everything, Dave. He's a very cute sprinter, but at the same time, there's still a long way to go yet. Contreras, Dave, is gone.
He's a cheeky chap.
Arrieta's gone, sorry.
Well, Arrieta's been also doing a lot of work on behalf of Zuller, but he doesn't strike me as a chap who can maintain the speed now to what he's been doing so far. He's been doing lion's share of the work. 1 kilometre to go.
Yeah, Ellie is in a position here now. They all know, really, they all are very worried about it because they know he'll be the fastest man in this group, sort of sitting on his wheel. So it's a very difficult position for Ellie to be in. But at the same time, Serranova's gone now with...
Well, Ellie, he's had some 23 victories in his time, and can he add this stage here into Pau towards that list of victories that he's had? Started way back in 1990 with the Eurosport team when he got a stage at the Hofbräu Cup. He's always been there, able to win stages and events at what I call the lower level, things like the Tour of Murcia and Tours of Vittoria and so on. But Alberto Ellie coming on through now. Let's see if he can get the victories. He's looking over his shoulder, but he's been out there, say, something like 150 kilometres. He must be tired. And Echevarria also went up with that break too. Ellie's boxed. Vinacroft in the red and yellow. Can he do it? So Serrano goes, Echeverria takes up, and Serrano starts to go. Ellie tries to come, but his legs are dead, and it's Serrano. Is it? Yes. So tremendous performance then. No, it's Echeverria. My mistake. Echeverria it was that got that one. They one got the hat in one hand, so Echeverria that got that. My mistake. Echeverria then got his second victory in the Tour de France. My apologies to his team and to everybody else. This is now some 20 seconds back as Belly goes across the line ahead. Tonkov, and in there safely home is Zulaev, Skartin and Armstrong, who are on the overall classification first, second and third. If we look back again at the main group coming in here, maybe about a good 2 minutes down. The clock is showing 35, 36, 37 seconds, and Dufo has, I think, probably lost his chance of getting up on the podium, but you never know in bike racing what can happen. He just needs a superb time trial to catch up with Escartin, who really rode like a devil with Armstrong and Zullo today. Looking back then at Echeverria taking this stage victory, I apologise that I mixed him up with his teammate, but he'd been riding with the white hat, then he'd taken off, then he put it back on again, and now he comes sunding through here. Second victory, he got that one at Saint-Flour. When that went uphill, he took off on his own and rode in, and I thought he probably went too far out, but this time he judged it to a nicety. And when you think that he was in that group with Tonkov and Ellie that went away, some 45 kilometres into the race, he's had an awful long time as the main pack coming into sight now. So congratulations to all those three riders that set the race alight today. Ellie, Tonkov and Echeverria. At least Echeverria got first spot. Ellie back there also in that break group. That is the wind-up from the main group. They've got to save all the time they possibly can do. Maffei been working hard for the interest of Nardello coming in with this group, and in that main pack, Richard Veronk. We can see Morrow from the Festina team as well, and
Francois Simon there as well. Check it, you're on there.
We see is he must be there. Alana must be there. Yes, Alana, I think that's with the white hat on.
Yeah. Jackie Duron and Francois Simon.
And there's the champion of
Piccoli on the inside of Spain.
Piccoli. Oof, that was close. Sprinting for the minor places, but nevertheless, looking down there, it certainly appears that Alano's got in safe and sound, Nardello's got in, Dufo's got in, Hulot. So pretty well all the top 15 riders are now home and dry. Well, that's the sprint from the pack. Of no real consequence, I suppose, except personal satisfaction of being able to come out of the pack, as Piccoli may have just about popped it across the line, but I'm not quite certain on that one. Wait for official confirmation, but we have had a tremendous day. Stephen, I don't know, the time flies. At the top there, it's gone to the Casino rider, then
Check it, you're on.
Yeah, it could be Duron.
Second is Francois Simon. Yeah. Third is
Piccoli, yeah. And that could be what Nardello back there for. Anyway, that's for the lesser placings. And the motorcycle got sixth. They're not normally supposed to go through. I don't quite know how he got there. In fact, the photo finisher sort of flattened it in. He wasn't that close as those four riders hit the line for the lesser places. We're looking at the sprint for the first spot. Serrano went, and then Echeverria took off. Ellie in the pink tried to come through. Vinacroft on the left-hand side, and the young rider from Cama Costa Blanca, Contreras, dropping back here, may not have made third spot. Let's look at it again. But he does pop in very quickly. He does come late. He does come late. He does come late. He tried for second spot. He get it. Oh, he got it. Wow. Didn't quite get that from my point of view, but I was looking to see who got the victory, and Echeverria got that one. So they've had a first and a second in 2 days, and
exactly, very good.
Second success for him too, as well in the Tour.
Very good performance by the Kelme team, right through the day today, animating the whole stage right from the start with Escartina. And
then also this wonderful performance by Echeverria. Went away as we came up after 40 kilometres up the climb of the Col de Tourmalet. He went away then with Ellie. So Ellie, Tonkov and Echeverria were off there. And now we're going to see, again, that sprint. Serrano looked back and he had got nothing in his legs. And so it was, again, another victory for Echeverria. Well, he's come on since he won that Tour de l'Avenir a bit back, and he's shown tenacity in the mountains, and he's shown he can also sprint when it comes down to it. The trouble is in a sprint like this, I suppose, Stephen, that nobody knows each other. They're not used to doing this sort of thing, are they, eh?
Yeah, you can see the face of him there when he finished. It's a new kind of a gesture we haven't seen before. They're putting his hands up in the air one at a time. Normally it's two hands up in the air or a kiss to the sky or whatever, but I must say there today we saw something new.
It sounds like the way the footballers invent something when they score a goal, don't they? Running around with a shirt over their head or jumping up and down on the ground or doing strange signals. But certainly on that occasion, the 1-2, 1-2, 1-2 punch. Although it's meant he's won two stages, one fist up then the other stage up, but that's exactly what he's done then. The young rider on the Onse Deutsche Bank team. And a nice look back at this rather delightful city of Po. Most of the riders will be staying here tonight. We're going to move on from here. The start tomorrow is not that far away, and we've got a dead northerly run in towards the city of Bordeaux, which has been the place where we've had so many sprint finishes there in the past. And Armstrong still in the yellow jersey. Escartin 6:15. Zola. Now look at the gap back to Duffield. Look at the damage done today. So there's a cushion nearly of 4 minutes and 15 seconds for Escartin and Duffield. So that's paid off in his today, because both Zola and Armstrong are very good time trialists, and I don't think they'd be too worried. But undoubtedly, I think the Calmy camp are going to be happy today with the way they performed when we're going into two flat days, when the sprinter teams and those teams, people like Jackie Durand, people like Cedric Vasseur for the Credit Agricole, will be doing what they can to fire a man off and go for a long lone break or go in a small group to try and get a stage victory on the next two stages. Then we go into the time trial at Futuroscope. So the stage into Bordeaux on the 22nd of July, 200 kilometres, not a bad distance. I'm sure the sprinters who survive this mountain will be looking forward to it. Well, Po, this beautiful city, being very much a fortress guarding the borders between Spain and France, and again with a Spanish rider that triumphed on French soil today, and still yet we're without a French rider winning a stage in the Tour de France. So we have to go back to 1926 was the last time the Tour de France was ever run without a French rider getting a stage victory. Stephen, two flat stages, time trial, another flat stage into Champs-Élysées. What chance have the French got of getting a stage victory?
Well, it's sure in the time trial, the Futuroscope, there's no chances of winning it there. The only chance is tomorrow and Friday of somebody getting away. I'd say someone like Hulot or someone like François Simon getting away, someone like Durand, someone like Levasseur, who hasn't done a lot, hasn't done anything at all, hardly in the race so far. Like, these guys are going to have to be motivating themselves. I'm sure they are motivated at the moment to do something in the next couple of days. And I'm sure, without fail, like, some guys are looking forward to a handy day tomorrow and the next day with flat stages, but I can guarantee you there'll be no handy riding tomorrow or Friday. It'll be all go again.
Well, the city of Po, seen so many of the victories here in the past by riders, sprints. We've had lone riders coming in as well, very much known for the Henry IV, who built up this city, as you can see it now in the background. Lovely part of the world, the capital of the Beaune area of France, very much frequented by people like Victor Hugo in the past, and now the delay, I think, just waiting for the presentation of the various jerseys, and it looks like you can well stay with us on Eurosport to see that. We've had quite a quick run into the finish. For those of you, by the way, that have been with us all the way through, you'll know exactly how this man took off on the stage when we went up to the climb of the Col de Tourmalet, and he took off just after some 50 kilometres of racing. So he's done about 140 kilometres out there over the top of the big climbs to take the victory. For those who have survived all day, those who are watching live this afternoon on Eurosport, thanks for being with us through that whole thing. You deserve a medal too, and I deserve a quick trip round to the toilet, because it's getting a bit, we haven't left the commentary point since we started, since I started at 11:30 this morning Central European time. But it's been something happening all the day, and it's like everything else, that when you are maybe doing a job, and I don't look upon this job, I look upon it as a passion really, that if you're doing something you don't like doing, then the day is just awfully long. And as they say in France, there's nothing as long as a day without bread. Well, we just have plenty of bread today and plenty of butter on it, and jam too, I think, the way they've been racing along the course, giving us something to talk about all the way through. A very complex day, and our congratulations go out to the riders who entertained us so forcibly, considering seen what they've done so far in this race, the distance they've covered, we've been at it now. We haven't just had 2 rest days, and we're coming up towards our 3rd week of this big tour, coming towards the back end of the 3rd week. They've actually done 2,910 kilometres, and the average speed, as at this morning, was 40.003 kilometres an hour, just on 25 miles an hour. I will dig back into my records to try and find out. I did say to one of our viewers the fastest up to 1994, and that was 39.7 if memory serves me correct. Let's see if we can pick up an even faster one, but I wonder if this tour this year will be the fastest or not. Whatever it is, it's going to be one that, providing nothing happens to disrupt the general flow of things, we're going to see, use the expression American in Paris. I know it's a corny one to say, but it's been the first English-speaking rider since Greg LeMond in 1990. Could be in yellow. Great time trialist. He took the yellow jersey after the prologue time trial, lost it 2 days later, got it back in Metz with a superb time trial of a 56.5 kilometre circuit, and I'm sure the one at Futuroscope will suit Lance indeed. In fact, that Futuroscope, did you rode that one, didn't you?
Yeah, I rode one. It was twice as long. I rode it in 87, and it was 93 or 4 kilometres. One of the longest time trials actually that's been in the Tour de France, and I won that one, but they've never used the same circuit since. It's a smaller circuit at 57 kilometres, I think, at this time.
Well, so Stephen will be taking us through that one when we get there in a couple of days' time, and the way this man is going at the moment, he looks like he's unstoppable on his way through. So if the US Postal team, who once again did a good job to keep him in contention all the way through, they'll now be able to go back to their hotels and then get ready for the stage on the flat yet to follow. Well, you can hear the crowd in the background. We've been looking on our cameras at the lovely Boulevard de Pyrenees, the Place Royale, and the Chateau, which was changed into a palace during the 19th century. But this man here, still the darling of the French public. And that polka dot jersey, also barring accidents, will go through to Paris on the shoulders of Richard Bronk. We've just got no more than 3 fourth category climbs spread out over the next 2 days. They're nothing to this man at all. I think Mr. Pickley might be allowed to, well, he'd probably romp down the road to try and get them, unless, of course, we get a break going on the 2 stage. But there's no doubt about it. He's going through into Paris wearing that polka dot jersey. Bronk, who in the mountains has done exactly that, but it hasn't been overtly strongly contested. There's been some good mountain climbers, but they seem to have been going more, as Skarting did yesterday, for stage victories, and Bronk has ridden a very cagey race, used his head, and has got that polka dot jersey yet again. So we'll go back down, lovely part that we have here. That beautiful church in the background. Nice part of the world. It's a lovely balmy territory. Also well known not only for cycling, because we've been here so many times in the past, but rugby as well, basketball too.
There's many rugby men around the area.
They are, yes.
Push around from here, Pau, Biarritz, Bayonne. It's a very rugby region.
I come from near Bath, you see, where we have a modest rugby team there too. They've had a bit of a rough year this year, but they seem to be coming good at the back end of the season. Well, the lads coming in here 13 minutes and 6 seconds down. The big group containing most of the sprinters will be coming a long time down. They'll be working out now what they have to do to stay in the cut-off for the time difference, but they have to get into the town of Pau to make sure they can start tomorrow. That gives you some idea of the course. It's a bit jagged, but it isn't quite like that. It's almost flat as a pancake. We've got a wind which is actually blowing at them, just 15 kilometres an hour, not very much, and the temperature is quite hot by the time we get to Bordeaux, 27 degrees, so it's going to be a hot day. The wind will cool them down just a little bit, but it's an ideal course for maybe a bit of breakaway groups to go away, or we can end up with a big sprint finish. So it's going to be another day tomorrow where the top men will probably just watch each other and let's see who can get away. Looking back then at the sprint today, one that none of us expected. I don't know if anybody's picked this man to win Etcheverry, but he did it today, and you can watch the highlights of this stage then from Lannemezan to Pau at 9 o'clock tonight, with lots of inserts from the stories of the day and looking back at it. But if you want to go straight into the race tomorrow, get yourself down, settle in your chair at 15:05 in the afternoon, that's Central European time, to watch the stage from Monax to Bordeaux. After this Tour de France programme, you'll be seeing the sport Sports Centre, and then we'll go to a highlight programme, a resume of what's been a long day for the riders. I'm sitting alongside Stephen Roche, who's once again enjoyed working for your behalf, and I hope you'll join me tomorrow on our stage into Bordeaux, the great wine drinking country. I think it's time to crack a bottle, but until tomorrow, au revoir, à demain.
Sports Centre with Fila.
Tour de France leader Lance Armstrong is to give a press conference later today to explain traces of corticoids in his blood. The level of the substance found in UCI tests is understood to be within agreed limits as a result of